When you are thinking about what your staff members should be able to do and see in the system, our recommendation is that, at least at the start, you limit the permissions in the system, preferably a little bit too much than too little. It's always easier to later on add a higher level of permission than take away permission that has previously been given to people. Not because it's difficult in the system, but generally people don't tend to really like losing access to something that they have had access to previously. So you might have fewer questions to deal with if you just limit them a little bit better at the start. If you go here into administration, general information, and permission groups, you will find a long list of different permission groups. The settings in them all look the same. They're all the same settings, but we recommend that you target your permission groups, the specific areas of the system. And if we go into, for instance, the approval permission group here, we can see that this, if we start scrolling down, this permission group gives no level of permission at all to, for instance, the budgets or the requisitions that can be a part of your Rillion Prime solution. But if we jump into the invoice module here, we can see that this is where some choices have been made in terms of what permission the role that has access to this permission group is able to view and see in the system. So there are many different settings here where you can see that you are able to make choices, for instance, whether they should be able to manage specific object types or if they should be able to only view those. Can they, for instance, edit the invoice flow? Should they be able to edit the supplier for an invoice or currencies or amounts, etc.? So with the permission groups, you can say what someone working with that specific permission group in the system is able to do and see. And the best practice here is to keep them targeted to specific areas in the system. So if you're using several different modules in the system, as you can see here in this environment, we have the budgets, the requisitions, invoices, contracts, expenses, and documents. If you have all of those, it's good to have at least one permission group targeting that specific module of the system. And in many cases, it is also recommended that you have different levels of permission groups for those specific modules in the system. So let's say that you have a permission group that is targeted towards the reports in the system. We have here one permission group that is named extended reports, which means that if you scroll down here to the reports module, you can see that this gives the role who has access to this permission group is going to be able to see a lot of data in the different reports. So they'll have access to the reports for all the different modules. But for instance, some of these settings will give them access to, for instance, all the records in that specific report, whereas you might also want to have one permission group that is set up so that the users and roles with that specific permission group has perhaps access to only view invoices where invoices in the reports module where they have themselves been a part of the invoice flow. So they're not able to view all the invoices that have been handled in your Rillion Prime environment since you have started using it. So that's why you might need to have different levels of permission groups targeting the same area in the system as well, so that you only give access to what they really need rather than everything in the system. So you can see here that we have already created many different permission groups here for this environment. And these lines here that don't have a name. They are ready-made permission groups that you can start using by just giving them a name and then editing the permission levels on that permission group. And by doing this in this way, like targeting the different modules in the system with these permission groups and only the specific level of permission that is required, you will be able to create very specific settings for your different roles so that they will have access to what they need, but nothing more. And this means that you can also have, let's say, several different staff members who are approving invoices that don't all have to have the exact same access in the system. So it very much depends on what the requirements are for what they should be able to do and see. And these can be different with the help of these permission groups. So these are very useful, and we recommend that you familiarize yourself with the settings here and how you can best adjust them to fit the needs of your business. And this is also one of the reasons why it's quite useful to have the permission group set up so that they are targeting only a specific area, because the system will combine all the permissions from all the different permission groups that have been given to a specific role and add them up. So you will indeed get the highest level from all of the different permission groups. So if you have, for instance, a permission group where you have on the, let's say we'll take the approval one, if we have on this also given access to the reports module or the administration module, you can accidentally then end up giving a role access to something that you didn't actually intend to, if you aren't aware that you have also here on this targeted some other areas in the system than just the invoice module. So please do be mindful of that when you are creating the permission groups and then assigning them to the role. So making a change to a permission group will then impact all of the roles that are using that permission group. Good. So if we go back now to the role one more time to tie it together to see where these are added. And here we can see now that this role here has been assigned only the approval permission group. And if we go into the operation permission here, we can see the same settings that we had in the permission group menu. And this is where you can see the summary of all of the different permission groups that the role has been given access to and how they have been combined. In this case, it's quite simple because we only have the one permission group and it only impacts the invoice module here. But if we would add more permission groups to the role, in this breakdown here under permission and the operation permission, you would then see a combination of all the different permission groups. But those are some very important things to keep in mind when you are creating, editing, and using your permission groups in the system. When you are handling those, it is of course the needs of your business that will steer how you create them and how you use them. But our recommendation is very much to target the areas, the specific areas in the system, and preferably limit them too much than too little at the start. And you can create very specific combinations then with the use of the permission groups.